So, our final session for today is IP monetization and valuation, patents and copyrights. This session will be moderated by Sanaz Javadi, IP Attaché at the British Embassy, Dubai, UAE. Please welcome her on stage. Sorry. Actually, we have preponed the session. I'm so sorry for that. So could you please? Actually, we have decided like after the lunch, you can network with each other, which will be good for you. So is it possible? Like, please. Okay, no problem. Thank you so much. I would like to invite Sparsh Arora, Senior Manager, Lear Corporation from India. So sorry.
No
Please,
worries,
ma'am.
no worries. Because I can moderate better if I'm ready. It's okay, huh? We try to keep it short so that you can go to the lunch and enjoy. How many we have? It's only us?
No, one. We are having Priyank Khandelwal, founding partner, Photon Legal from India. Let me call him. So in the meantime, you can start your discussion.
Hello? Yeah, great.
Such a chill panel. No one, like, you want chill event, like, no
Yeah,
one says anything.
like
Like, you should give me a medal for this. Will you hire me later on? Maybe you can hire me later if you want.
Are we ready? Gulpreet?
Shall we wait for another panelist?
Yes, I'm waiting for him. If in the meantime, if you want, you can start.
Okay, sure. So everyone, please don't leave the room, okay? We really count on you. We know that it's the lunch break almost, but it's okay. So I think I gave a bit of introduction about myself yesterday, so I don't bore you with my talk again. Again, my name is Sanaz, IP Attaché, working with UK government, UK IP office, and I just moved to Dubai from Switzerland, WIPO, to work with UK government on the IP frameworks in Middle East and North Africa. So we're gonna start now. I think we don't have the full panel yet, but we can start maybe, Sparsh, if you want to give a bit of introduction about yourself, what you're doing, where you're coming from, what is your area of expertise, and then hopefully another panelist. It's you?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, please go ahead.
Can everyone hear me? All good? Okay. Thank you so much, Sanaz, for joining in. I know it's a bit of sudden adventure that we had. It was planned in post-lunch, and I know many of you would be very hungry, looking forward for the food. So we'll try to keep it very short, but I'm sure I'll try to add some value to the things, right? So a bit about myself. I'm Sparsh Arora, and I have a decade over experience in IP. Particularly, I've worked mostly in the patent side of things. I was associated with Honeywell for 8+ years. I was leading a business IP function over there. And then now I'm associated with Lear Corporation. Lear Corporation is a global MNC, and it's a kind of a leading supplier of in the automotive industry in the seating, car seats, and electronic systems. So I lead a team over there, Global IP Analytics. We do patent searches, we do patent drafting, prosecution, all types of IP services. We take care of it in-house. Okay. So, and I come from India. I come from north side of India, Delhi. So, I think IP is one such domain wherein you constantly learn. So, I mean, these conferences, these interactions, there has to be a learning takeaway for all of us. So, I mean, that's how I see it. Rather than just kind of being there, it makes sense where we all just share knowledge and learn from each other. So I think
Thank
that's
you
what.
so much. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
with
And
us.
here I would like to inform you that we are having one more panelist, David Sankar from Sankar IP. Please give them a...
Oh, great.
Thank you. Thank you, David,
Also-
for filling the panel for us.
Also, we are having Kevin over the stage, but let me bring one chair for him, and
Oh,
then
yeah,
we can...
that would be great. Thank you so much. This is
Thank you.
amazing. Kevin, I
Let
love
me
it.
bring
I
one
love
chair
it
for
this
him.
way.
So this
This
becoming
is
like
more
exciting.
fun, Kevin.
Yeah.
So I think we have to squeeze a bit, maybe.
Or we want to actually do a round table there. We can do that as well.
What?
Yes, if you want to.
We can do a round table there itself.
No, I mean,
Oh, all right.
yeah, it's not a big deal. Because we have to squeeze the session. We have to be really fast. Like,
Right.
Very interesting. It's going to be very interesting panel.
Very dynamic panel.
I love it. Everything is happening spontaneously. Okay, why not? Crisis management, huh? Perfect, perfect. So please, David, if you can go ahead, give us a bit of introduction. We already know you, I think, since last week.
Yes.
But yeah, please.
Well, so yeah, I don't know. So my quick background is long time ago I got my degree in my PhD in mathematics a long time ago from Berkeley, and I was a professor of mathematics for 3 years, and then I went into software development for 12 years, which is great. And actually, while I was a software developer, I said, you know, this is as good as it gets. And I recognized that while I was doing it, which is good. When you're enjoying something, it's good to recognize it. But after 12 years, I said, you know, I got to do something different. And I sort of accidentally discovered law, but only as a way of being involved in technology. And so that's what makes it good, makes it enjoyable. And so I've been doing patent law for a bunch of years, and then almost exactly a year ago, I started my own firm, Sankar IP. I started it February 1st last year, so I'm about to celebrate 1 year.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and saving us. So, Kevin, please.
Okay, I'm Kevin Fournier, and I've been in IP patents specifically my whole career. So I was not a software developer or a PhD, but I started out at the very beginning at 22 years old in the U.S. Patent Office as a patent examiner. So from the ground up, I've kind of seen the patent field from different angles. I've also worked in 2 different law firms in the United States, one in Washington, D.C., one in Boston. And then I spent a majority of my career in IBM's IP department in the UK. And then recently, 4 years ago, I started my own firm in England and helping clients to file, smaller clients, mostly startups, filing in the US Patent Office as well as filing at the European Patent Office. I passed the patent bar in Europe as well as the USPTO. And so, yeah, it's been really fun. I've enjoyed it for many years now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Please, I mean, if you were moderating another session yesterday, right? Yeah, please.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. I am Prayank Khandelwal. I'm founding partner at Photon Legal, a boutique IP firm started in India almost 5.5 years ago. I'm a software engineer first. I went to Tel Aviv University, Israel to study cybersecurity. Wanted to be a cyber guy, but ended up coming to IP because of the kind of work IP lawyers used to do and still are doing. So instead of marrying to just one company, now I'm tied up with almost 400 plus client of mine and helping them out in terms of patents, trademarks, copyrights, different strategies for the global protection. And this is what keeps me going. I mean, meeting friends like you and hopping onto the call at the last minute. And today we are on a panel at the last minute as well. So
This is
life
cool.
keeps on happening. Yeah, I mean, the dynamic things keep on surprising, and I think that's the fun part. So I involve myself with very few of the IP matters these days, but most on the strategy front or networking or meeting people like yourself, and that's what we are doing here. All right.
Thank you so much for
Thanks.
being with us. And you had a cool moderation yesterday. I really
Thank you.
enjoyed. So we're gonna start with you, Sparsh, because you already sent your questions. So honestly, I mean, because you just joined, so I don't have the questions, but I'm gonna ask spontaneously. So please, I mean, we discussed that, like, okay, the whole panel is around like patent monetization and how to have the effective usage of the patent system in order to help innovators to, like gain financial advantage out of their own, research or activities. Because I was in a meeting before this, that this week Arab Health is happening also in Dubai, and there are a lot of like people active in the healthcare area. And like one of the gentlemen, he approached me and he was like, we really require serious IP assistance in this region, not only in terms of IP protection, but developing relevant strategies, because the healthcare sector is really suffering from, like being able to put the research and development and the relevant products into the market in a tangible manner. So what is your experience on this, considering all this, discussion around Industry 4 and I think Industry 5, maybe, like I was just, deep diving into this recently. So what is your experience on this, and how would you recommend the relevant strategies for the patent valuation and the monetization? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Anas. I think I mean it's we all know that we are living in a very dynamic business environment currently. So when it comes to IP monetization, I think before IP monetization, IP valuation comes into the picture. When all the product-based companies, when they build their patent portfolios or even IP portfolios in general, there's a lot of strategies which goes behind it, and to some extent, the IP strategy has to be aligned with the business strategy, which means that you need to know where is your market currently, what was the legacy, and where is your market going in future. And then with a lot of changing business dynamics and ecosystem with Industry 4.0, supply chain issues, wars going on, companies in general are changing their marketing strategy in the target markets. So you see that there is a lot of push on GCCs. There's a lot of global capability centers getting developed in best cost countries. I would say it as best cost countries, wherein you get the best talent and then you get it at the very good optimum cost. So companies in general in manufacturing side of things are shifting their operations in a very strategic way. The regions are changing. The hotshot regions are kind of no more catering to all the segments of it. Like, I mean, you just talk about automotive. The designing of auto components is happening in one region, whereas the manufacturing at scale is happening in different other regions. Testing and validation is happening at different other regions. And this shift is happening very fast. I mean, and then IP has to kind of catch up with this shift. So the IP strategy and the valuation that you do with respect to your portfolio 2 years back may not be relevant now. So you need to basically catch up that game of where the industry is moving and where the dynamics are moving. So I mean, I see it as in two ways. One is uh, you need to identify which are the sectors or segments market from market perspective as well as from jurisdiction perspective, which is going to cater to your defensive side of things. I mean, you all know that in IP monetization and valuation, there is always an offensive strategy and there is always a defensive strategy. So you need to identify what are your defensive segments, and that is not just dictated by pure IP and technology. That is also very much dictated by several other things. It is dictated by the target market. where you are operating, where your competitors are operating. It is dictated by even the local IP laws of that country. You don't have all the countries which have a very favorable ecosystem that supports your monetization. So probably you might think about what is my strategy in those jurisdictions. So that's on the defensive side of thing. You need to see where you need to build that defensive mode of portfolio. And then when it comes to the offensive side of the things, you need to identify that, okay, which are the regions and sectors which helps the company in getting the maximum ROI. I mean, just to take an example, I was with Honeywell earlier, and then if you Google it, they used just 3 or 4 patents. They filed a patent infringement suit against one of its biggest competitor, and then they got $360 million as the damages. And then the background work, and why that was successful is because the background work which was done before filing that suit was like 4 or 5 years of strategy, business dynamics, target big business segments, and whatnot. Uh, and then in terms, I mean, money is one part of it. In terms of the business impact, $360 million was something which could cater to the IP function, just running of the IP function, operations, IP protection, maintenance, and everything for the next 15 years. So that is the impact which can get generated if you value your portfolio in a right way, and then identify the target pockets and the segments.
Thank you. I think this is very interesting, and we can go on and go on with a lot of questions. I have a personal question because, I mean, I think maybe the dynamics is different between developed and developing markets. Because normally, like again, when the small like businesses, startups, SMEs, they don't have enough access to funds to secure the IP rights. How they can pay the relevant fees for developing the IPS strategies and the businesses that I've been working with through WIPO, and also, I mean, I'm gonna start to work in this region, and I'm quite sure that we will keep receiving this question, where is the money? We don't have enough to cover our own expenses. So how do you respond to this? Because you mentioned that the RPS strategy should be customized during the time, right? Because the market dynamics is evolving, technology is evolving, and there's so many other issues to consider. So how, this is really a big question, I think, all around the world, how to convince businesses to develop appropriate IPS strategies without waiting for the time that they are being infringed or infringing competitors' rights, you know?
Right, I think it's a very valid question. And then, I mean, I have limited experience of working with the startups. But then what I have seen in general is that, I mean, this problem is always there, that there is a uncertain moving variable where they're not very sure of, you know, and they have to convince the executive management in buying in the IP funds and budgets to protect it before something comes up. So how they can be ready about that? I think there is no kind of a one-way answer for this. It is a very comprehensive thought process which they need to put in. So I mean, I've seen wherein the startups are kind of doing some sort of joint development with bigger players, and kind of have a agreement in such a way that they have a share in terms of when they're going to monetize it or when they're going to protect it. So that is one approach which they generally follow. In terms of the you know, building that business pitch, I mean, I have always kind of imagined it not just for a startup, but for generally any mid-size company also. Think of it like a Rubik cube. You have a Rubik cube, and you have all the dices in that, right? Each of that dice represents one of your country, right? And then there are, for every dice there is 3 sides to it. So one side of that dice is basically your IP technology strategy, right? Like, what are you doing currently in the in that startup in terms of building the technology? What are the latest things which you have done in terms of the technology, and what are the key areas which you want to protect as what you're doing now and what you would do in future? The second side of that dice is basically the business, which is, right, okay, who are the similar players in the industry out there, and which segments they are operating in, and which countries they are operating in, how much money as percentage of their R&D investment they are investing in IP protection. So I mean, I've seen companies doing this analysis that, okay, uh, what is the value of my patent per $1 million R&D investment in technology? Or what is the value of my patent per $1 million of revenue that I am generating, or I would potentially generate out of this patent? So that is the second, I mean, there are more to it, there's more to it. So that's the second side of that cube. And then the third side of that, that dice would be the ecosystem, the IP ecosystem in that country. Like, you know, how much favorable IP ecosystem is, how much costly it is. I mean, you know, In Europe, you have ecosystems where you have two separate courts to handle the IP infringement and to handle the countersuit, like the invalidity proceedings. So companies play it very deliberately, wherein generally the invalidity proceedings courts, they run a case a bit longer, and then you file parallelly into two cases, and then you get injunctions because the infringement proceedings move at a much faster rate. So you need to identify those target ecosystems which favor you and gives you the best ROI. So I think that's what I would want to add.
Thank you so much, David. What is your experience on this? So I think, as you mentioned, having the IP ecosystem in place is relevant. And I think beyond that, we need to have the IP culture. If the businesses don't see the IP as a necessity, as a part of business strategy, okay, maybe in the beginning they're using trademark, but what is happening along the way when they're promoting their business, their technology? So what would you recommend, and what is your experience?
Yeah, I mean, this is an important issue, and I think follow up with your previous question too, which is like, well, how does a startup with a very little funds, how can they prioritize this? And there's at least a couple of things that can be done, and actually that I have specifically done for my patent work, which is sometimes. Some law firms will, do work and defer when they have to pay. It's like, well, maybe defer payment until you've got a funding round, so you don't need to have cash now. Or even have a law firm that does the work and say, okay, and we'll take equity in the company as opposed to taking cash. And so there are multiple ways that you can kind of get to getting the work that you need to have done when it's low on cash. But so your other question is like, well, how do you convince people? Because yeah, there's some people who are not aware of how critical their IP assets are going to be. And I have a brand new client that another attorney was talking to them, and they were doing a bunch of inventive work, and it said, you really need to talk to an IP attorney. And so I am now talking to them, and it's like, yeah, they've got a lot of work that we need to work on, and I'll one way or another I'll work out the how does the billing work to make sure that it works for them, and then the other part too is just in terms of focusing on, say, well, we don't necessarily need to file on everything, because maybe it's like some of these things are better as trade secrets and some are better as as patents. And also, it's like, well, maybe we file a reasonably good quality provisional application, and that buys us a year. And maybe that we've got something patent pending will be enough to persuade investors to say, they've got something that's tangible, and maybe that will be enough. So part of it is just when you meet people, you just have to educate them and say, this really is important. And I was going to say one other thing that I've run into is that, like, some people also say, well, it's like, if as a startup, it's like, well, I couldn't enforce these rights anyway. I couldn't afford litigation, so why should I even file? And so you have to address that, which is to say, well, you're building your portfolio now. You're not likely to need to enforce it now, but you might in a couple of years, and at that time you'll be in a better position to be able to do that. As well as there's also litigation funders that are making this more plausible as well. So it's like you need to file now, and then because it's valuable to you. So
this is really great. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I have some interesting things to share to this, because I often find it very interesting when I'm convincing people to invest into IP. So one of the first change which I have done in my practice is I've replaced the words like cost and budgets out of the way, and I've replaced them with investment. So when I'm pitching my clients, I tell them, when they ask me how much it's going to cost, I'm saying that this is not a cost thing for you, because if you consider it as a cost, it's like money down the drain. But consider it as an investment. So you are investing into IP. Now, the moment you say, okay, this much is going to be your investment, they see the value in it. So as lawyers, we need to change the vocabulary to change the perceived value of what IP is able to bring, because when it comes to any business, for them, their people, their product always takes precedence in terms of prioritizing IP or before this or not. So IP comes as a last priority for them. When you are dealing with startups, for them, survival is the first thing which they have to do in a couple of years of operation. And if they are not able to protect within that time, then they would lose out on crucial components being protected. So we flip the narrative around and we say, you know what, you are raising funds, that's great. You are investing into tech, that's great. Out of your total investment, at least allocate 4 to 5% for your IP as well. So that's the number which we give it to them. Because anyways, you are the big corporations, even the countries all across the globe are investing around 7 to 8% into R&D. 4% is the global average. So we say, why don't you just invest 4 to 5% of your next funding round to your IP? If you're a bootstrap company, you are having good revenue, invest 4 to 5% of that to your IP. It could mean filing bunch of provisionals. It could mean filing bunch of complete applications into multiple countries as well. Have that number safeguarded already. Now with that, they would have clarity that, oh, this is what I'll get in return. In return, again, IP is not something where you will have a tangible result very often. It's a long process. Not everybody wants to go into litigation as well. So the second thing which we tell them is that consider IP as your marketing tool. The moment you have 5 patents pending written on your website, on your product, on your sales pitch, sales deck, automatically it changes the narrative and it keeps you away from the competition because the competitor will not be able to claim the same thing, right? So here your client is empowered with this knowledge saying that, oh, I will use IP as a marketing thing. So I convince or I use this narrative more often that, okay, do not consider IP as cost, consider it as an investment. Second, it is a tool for your marketing. Do marketing heavily, increase the fund, increase your valuation, raise more fund, and then come back to us and let's get a bunch of more IPs done across the globe. And that is what is helping. And we have also put a number to that, 4 to 5% of the total fund that they are planning to raise. I think that really helps.
Okay, I will get back to you because I would like to know each and every country perspective on this. I think we have mostly US and India here. If you can provide also a bit of UK perspective or comparative analysis of UK and US. In your experience, Kevin, so, okay, we're discussing as lawyers, as patent attorneys, interacting with relevant clients, businesses, startups. What about within the organization? Because you always, at least this has been my case all the time, IP is a luxury, it's not a necessity. It's relevant to multinational companies. I don't have a big business operation and you don't even hear this in like far distant areas in, you know, somewhere that you barely travel to or you're just developing like a small agri-tech company. This is the relevant case, I think, for each and every place, you know. And as I indicated yesterday, when I was coaching women-led businesses in UK, I was really shocked that they were like unaware of the IP importance for their business. They had no access to fund. They didn't know how to look for the fund. And they were so scared of developing their IP portfolio. And they had really good IP assets in place, but they didn't know how to use it effectively. So what is your experience on this? Because I think, again, we need to establish the IP culture. Individual interaction doesn't really help, or it takes longer time, right? So, and I know that in UK there are a lot of initiatives going on. I think Innovate UK is doing something. So what is your experience on this?
Okay, well, the UK government is really helpful when it comes to startups and getting companies that are very new to appreciate the IP that they have. So one thing that they offer is something called an IP audit, and they provide funding of £3,000. And so the £3,000 goes to the IP attorney, and the client is expected to pay £750, and the government pays the remainder. And then this means that I've done many of these for clients, and it's been really good because I used to do it at this kind of thing in my corporate background, where you're doing an IP audit, you're basically asking a lot of questions. It's due diligence. So you have a list of questions, and you just go through the whole history, all the different types of IP that the business has, and the types of IP that they don't have. So you go through all the buckets of IP, the 5 or 6 buckets, and then you think, what do you have so far? What do you not have, and what could you file or protect? And then you do the same for other people's IP, third-party IP that the business is exposed to. Maybe they're using somebody else's software, they have to pay a license. Maybe they're using open source software, there's certain licenses that you need to look at there. Maybe they're using somebody's patent and they have a license and they're paying a license fee. So you go through all of the different third-party IP in all of those 5 or 6 buckets. And then you look at all the contracts of that the startup has gotten into in terms of shareholder agreements, maybe investment agreements, collaboration agreements with universities. You look at all of the IP terms there, and you see if they've done anything there that's not right, that needs to be adjusted or maybe renegotiated, those contracts. And then you come up with a list of recommendations based on what you found there in this audit. That you have a list of recommendations. So it's an IP audit report that you create, and this is really helpful because then it spurs on it shows the client that there's other things that they're missing, like maybe they need to file a patent and they haven't filed one yet. They need to protect their trademark in a country that they're going to now start selling into that they weren't selling before. So yeah, IP audits have been very useful that UK government has offered. And then there's a second part of this called the IP access scheme. And this is also run through the government, a particular agency called Innovate UK that you mentioned. They sponsor startups. And so the startup would first go to Innovate UK in the government, and then Innovate UK would direct them to the patent office, the IPO, the Intellectual Property Office, which then provides the funding. So the second part, the IP access, is £5,000, and this goes towards something that's been recommended in the audit. Like the audit's going to recommend that maybe a patent be drafted, or the agreements need to be renegotiated that you've got, or a freedom to operate study has to be done because you need to know that you're not going to get sued as soon as you launch your product. So the government provides £5,000 for this IP access. So yeah, it's really helped, and it's been really helpful for me as well because the clients have money to pay me, you know, because oftentimes they don't. So I mention these things to my clients in the UK, and it gives them the funding, right away, and the government seems to pay quite quickly. The UK government seems to pay quite quickly, so which is good. The tricky part is figuring out the tax, the VAT, because the government gives you this funding and it includes the VAT. So you have to do some clever math in order to figure out exactly how much the government is supposed to pay you. But yeah, they're really helpful.
Thank you, Kevin. This is really useful, especially for me that I have to work on these issues. And so we discussed last week in another event that like the IP finance and IP-backed finance is a new trend. WIPO is doing a lot of stuff. UK has started the new scheme for the businesses to use IP assets as a mean for getting the access to finance. And also HSBC has started to, because I've been trying to meet with the British banks here. Okay, I just arrived, I didn't have much time, but I just met with one of the banks here and they were like, what is IP? We don't know anything about IP and why it's relevant to us. And it was like, so I'm trying really to meet with HSBC team here in UAE to see what they're doing in this region, not only in UK, because I know that they have started something with the government to provide loans and, like access to fund, so beyond what is happening in Innovate UK, but at the same time, like in this region, because I think this is a very tricky topic, because I'm quite sure that most of the businesses would say that, okay, we don't have access to that fund. And I'm not aware of, I know that UAE and Saudi, they are developing some initiatives, but it's at a very early stage now. So in your experience, how long does it take, like, to develop the to go through the audit process and then identify what they have, what they don't have, what they should do. You also mentioned to the contractual frameworks, which is really also important because most of the businesses, they always relied on the registration side without analyzing what contractual obligations they have in place. So how long does it take? And so normally you should also do the market identification as well, right? So how would you do that? Because again, I think market identification is also a tricky part in the IP audit. So
Okay. So it's really funny that I've done many of these audits, and I always tell clients that it will take an hour for the meeting, because it does. It just seems to take an hour. So I have a meeting with if it's a company that's not been around for ages, if they are maybe a startup that's been around for a year or something, you can ask all the questions you need to ask and get all the information in 1 hour. So that seems to be what it is. It's a collecting process, this first hour meeting. You're asking questions, you're going through all the IP that they've come up with, you're going through all the IP that the other third parties have come up with. You're asking them about their contracts, and then they put it into a Google Drive or something, or some place where you can go get it, to look at them. And then you review them offline, the contracts and stuff. So the whole thing takes about maybe 10 days on and off, so it's a good, a very quick process, and it works very well. Yeah.
So another question, I can go on and go on, but is it also like different between different economic sectors, for example, pharma from agri, and is it like different, the audit you do and also the strategy that you develop?
Yes, it is very different. Software, if it's a software company, it's one set of questions, one expected set of answers. They've usually had the software developed by a software development house, oftentimes in another country, and so you need to look at the contracts for that, and the issues are different. Whether the IP has been assigned from the software development house to the client. So, yeah, software companies have one set of issues that come up, but if it's a hardware company, or not to do with even the computer industry, it could be to do with mechanical products. One of my clients makes concrete floors for animals, like stables, for animals, and where the waste goes down and goes away, and drains away and stuff. So yeah, concrete slats, for animal cattle barns, and so yeah, which. It was very, a whole different set of issues there, from a software company. So yes, it changes a lot, and you get into other issues completely.
Thank you, Kevin. This is my favorite topic now. It's so important. What is your experience in US? Because I would like to know what are the relevant government assistance on this to SMEs and small businesses, and also how you approach also your clients in terms of IP audit, and because it's pretty much the same everywhere, right? But again, it goes back to the IP framework and the policy framework and the IP ecosystem that exists in each and every country.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the governmental aspect, but I work with a lot of VC groups, so there's a lot of venture capital, and they're just trying to find the right people to invest in. So, in a sense, there may be too much venture capital. There's so many people that they have to connect with. Yeah, I mean, of course, there's the small businesses, SBA, the Small Business Association, which can provide loans, and can provide it quickly. I'm not familiar with whether there's any sort of like an auditing process. There might be, but I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm asking because, like I work with the government, so I'm really curious to know what other governments are doing. Actually, I have to talk to my counterpart, Aisha, US IP Attaché, to ask what are you gonna do in this region. So yeah, and like I would like to ask you, because I think we're running out of time, we're gonna take questions for sure. So what is like your recommendation in terms of developing the ecosystem within the organization itself? Because I don't think that convincing the businesses is that easy.
Yeah, no,
If,
that's
yeah,
right.
so
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. So, developing an ecosystem within the product-based company and organization for your IP strategy is very important. I mean, I've seen in so many conversations with people that IP strategy and IP function runs almost aloof with what is happening in the business side of things. So there has to be a systematic approach in developing a in-house IP ecosystem. And when I say systematic approach, there has to be processes and MOS in place, as into how you engage your engineering leads, how you engage your marketing leads, country by country, segment by segment, technology segment by technology segment, and how you involve them in your IP protection, in your IP evaluation process. So that's very important. I generally term it in two ways, which is like a outside in and an inside out approach. So when I talk about inside out approach, it's all about what are the systems that you have put in. Do you have a portal? Do you digitize that data? How you engage? What is the mechanism and the frequency and the content at which you engage your business leadership in the IP strategy. That's inside out for me. Like you gather all the information. Like generally in every product-based company, you have business divisions. Each business division would have specific product groups, and those specific product groups are generally catering to different market regions and countries. So how you involve the focals from there in a very systematic way, which is very action-backed, tangible result-driven. That's basically the inside out. And then the outside in is that do have channels wherein you get the information of what is happening outside the company in terms of the competitive world. I mean, there are many tech conferences which happens, there are many tech exhibitions which happens. Do you have any system in place wherein you feed in all of that information back into the system? I mean, or are these two things running separately? So it's all about gathering that data and information in a very systematic way, outside in and inside out approach, and then utilizing it in crafting your IP strategy in terms of how many patents you would file, how many copyrights you need, what to trade secret, what to patent, which country, and for what and what not, right? So I think that's what I would like to add, Sana, in terms of that.
thank you. So I would like to ask you, what are the tools that you're using in the IP audit process and developing the strategies for the businesses? Are there any specific tools that you are using within the course of your work? Or you're just relying on the, like the traditional scheme of, okay, audit, just filling the mark, like marking the, yeah, so.
So, I mean, of course, almost all the IP lawyers across the globe are using certain basic tools, which is databases, different databases, which there are different companies who have, third-party companies who have aggregated the database for patents, for trademarks, for designs as well. Of course, we have access to that, but now we go a step ahead where we are also having some of the companies like Crunchbase, where you can have funding information as well available. So when you tie that information with your patent information, then you get a different level of matrices. You can even draw some correlation between how many patents are being filed by one particular company in a particular country and the funding information which they are able to secure. That also becomes a very promising factor to influence the new clients you are approaching to increase their investment strategy as well. Then you can also use this kind of information for potential acquisition strategy as well. Because when we look at the clients at the end, they predominantly have two exit strategies, either to get acquired or to raise more fund and get to the IPO level and exit. So as a promoter, you can influence that decision by helping with the different strategies and the tools which are available. One of the things which I'm liking these days is segmenting the market information, putting it into the patent world and creating those dashboards. And there are a bunch of tools available out there which is helping us to do that. And then keeping a watch, I think what we use is Google Alerts works very well. when you want to keep a watch on any of the marks, any of the brands you are watching. I think keeping a regular watch would help you to identify whoever is doing something similar to your product in the future, because the in-house teams are not able to keep track of all of these things. I mean, I was also discussing with Sparsh, and he said the sales agent know much more than what in-house counsels would know about how and what features are getting infringed outside in the market. But they do not have access, or they do not have a channel to communicate that.
Yeah.
So we are trying to identify those gaps in the market by speaking to the applicants or the end consumers directly and trying to fill those using tech. There's no one solution which will do all of this. So you'll always have to keep trying those things. I've also tried my hands on AI patent drafting tools, AI trademark suggestions tools. There are tools which can suggest you the classes based on your businesses. We have custom trained our own GPT to feed the relevant classes for trademark based on the business information, or just a website which you can link and put that. So a lot of automation. And yeah, if you have time and bandwidth and you have a team who's able to think in that direction, then of course you can build a lot of automation and workflows into the system itself for doing audits, for doing market research, for identifying different kind of strategies which one company should adopt basis what their exit is in their minds.
Perfect, thank you. Oh my God, like there are so many questions in my head now. I think this is the most important, really. This is the most important. If there is no audit, evaluation, and access to fund, we're done with the IP system, right? So, I can take one or two questions. If I think you were raising your hand, right? Do you have any question?
In the United States, there are few additional resources. So for instance, the USPTO, the Patent Trademark Office, they have a pro bono program. So you can actually get a patent application drafted for free and file it for free.
That's great.
Some states like Virginia, California, their small business association, they have some programs for IP. And then also, some of these states will also have IP clinics where basically they have volunteer lawyers who get on and give advice and stuff to entrepreneurs and startups, et cetera. So there are a couple of these additional resources in addition to the usual ones.
Great, thank you so much. IP Clinic is actually something that we are thinking also to do it in this region. So it's much needed. Thank you so much. If you would like to add any final points,
I was going to say that having a clinic, that's something I do. I also as a pro bono basis on anything IP, and the most common thing is trademarks, and people just they're entrepreneurs, but they usually don't know very much, and so that's a good thing to do. There's a lot of attorneys who want to do pro bono work and can do good work.
thank you so much. I think we're running out of time and everyone is hungry. I hope we can still have lunch, right? Or we can go.
So, any questions from audience? Last.
Where is the food? IP-based food.
So no questions. Like you can have questions during the lunch break.
Please feel free to reach us like on LinkedIn, social media, and let's stay connected after the conference. I think this is a very important topic, and I think we can change I'm really being ambitious here, changing the IP dynamics, especially, okay, US is pioneer, UK is pioneer, like India is playing a very strong role, I think. But in this region, we still need to develop a lot of stuff. And for us, the sky is the limit. So happy to learn from you. And yeah, thank you so much. And as we say in French, bon appétit. Bye.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I know we have a time crunch, but I'll just take 2 minutes before the lunch. Right, so this is about the closing of the ceremony. I'll just take a couple of minutes. So ladies and gentlemen, as we come close to the conclusion of IIPLA 2025 Dubai, our 25th conference and the Silver Jubilee celebration, I am overwhelmed with pride and gratitude. This milestone is a testament to the enduring commitment of the global IP community to advance, innovate, and collaborate for a better future in intellectual property law. Over the past 2 days, we have shared invaluable insights, engaged in meaningful discussions, and forged connections that will undoubtedly shape the future of IP. This Silver Jubilee has not only marked a momentous occasion for IIPLA, but also reinforced the significance of our collective efforts to protect and enhance intellectual property worldwide. I want to express my deepest appreciation to all of our participants for your active engagement and invaluable contributions. Each of you has played an essential role in making this conference a tremendous success. A heartfelt thanks to our sponsors who made this event possible, including Mindsoft, Emirates IP Services, Safe Names, Inlex IP, Moray, Lexli Global, LexLegis, Mentoso IP, IP Doctors, and patent drawing experts. Your unwavering support and partnership have been instrumental in creating this impactful platform. As we look back on this Silver Jubilee, we celebrate not just the milestone, but the shared vision that has driven us forward. Let us carry this momentum as we prepare for the next chapter of IIPLA and continue to address the challenges and opportunities in the ever-evolving IP landscape. Thank you again for being part of this remarkable journey. Wishing you safe travels, continued success, and renewed inspiration as you return to your endeavors. We'll meet in China or Palo Alto before we meet again in Dubai. Thank you. Take care.
So the lunch is on the first floor, Medley Restaurant, and the legal track is still going on. Thank you.